Hi. Welcome back to one of our regular episodes on the Healthy Wisdom series with Dr. Jen Chen. This week, we're going to continue to talk about the wisdom of perspective, and we're going to take a slightly different angle from the previous two episodes. And I just wanted to quickly recap. If you haven't had a chance to listen to last week's bonus episode, please go and have a listen and let me know what you think. I definitely had a lot of fun making that episode. It was just by way of, kind of jazzing things up on this platform that we have. I just want to make sure that, we kind of keep things light as well. We can't always be talking about the heavy subjects, So being the person that I am, I always kind of like to uplift and make sure that we are kind of bringing the energy to a different level. So please have a listen, and definitely, I certainly hope I've done Miss Kelly Clarkson justice, and I hope I didn't butcher her song too badly. So this week, we are going to talk about perspective, and this week's lesson actually is going to start by, we're going to analyze a little bit of, so last week when I did the bonus episode, I really kind of got back into my Asian roots, and I guess it kind of made the segue into this week's episode because I thought about these two characters in Chinese that represent the word crisis, which is what a lot of people are facing right now during this pandemic. And I kind of wanted to just dissect, these two characters, that forms a phrase. And in Chinese, the word that I'm referring to is in Cantonese, it's wei, gay, and in Mandarin, it means wei ji. And what the first character represents is a literal translation would be danger or challenge. And the second word is opportunity, a chance. So it's really interesting that, back in the day, um, they, the Chinese people had this really, I would say, very wise sort of perspective on looking at what crisis is because they're totally bang on. If you think about it, in every crisis, there is always going to be an opportunity or a chance to make changes. And a lot of times, these changes lead to new opportunities and new versions of whatever the previous, whether it's business or your life or maybe even say in relationships, it tends to be a sort of transformation, if you want to call it that. But just to have like these two extremes of the spectrum come together to form one concept, which is crisis. I mean, to me, is just totally profound. I was deeply shaken by this, and I was thinking about it because I look around, and just from my own perspective in my profession, we as chiropractors. I've seen a lot of my colleagues actually close down their practices, and there's a small percentage of other chiropractors who have kept their doors open, albeit very at a minimal amount, but they're still serving those patients of theirs who are in urgent chiropractic need, people who are in severe pain, who cannot carry out their daily functions unless they have some sort of support physically and as well as mentally and emotionally. So it's really interesting because as I've said that, mentally and emotionally, during this time, during this pandemic, in my profession, that previously a lot of us would have never considered doing telehealth or telemedicine, which is like sort of like a more a phone or video conferencing type of consultation style to offer our services to our patients. That is something that actually even our colleges have started to sort of pitch as an alternative during this time. And it was really interesting because without this crisis, it wouldn't have brought this option of telehealth to light. So that was really interesting because now, as chiropractors, we are very well known for our hands-on therapeutic care. Our manual therapy is now like research proven, and it is very effective. We are very effective at what we do. But in our whole philosophy, we do focus on the person as a whole. And so we do provide care to the patient who comes in to see us. We give them emotional support and we give them mm, um, some coaching, if you want to call it that. We give them advice on their diet, their lifestyle, ergonomics, like all these things that all come as a package at an office visit. Now, we have the opportunity to at least repackage part of those services and actually maybe even focus more on the non physical side of things and be able to provide that as a form of care during this time of limited personal contact. So I thought that was really, really neat. Obviously, I myself, am in the process of pivoting and moving a lot of that extra support work that I normally do at my clinic and during my office visits. Now I'm actually considering sort of doing a more tailored support program for my patients in terms of including, telemedicine, telehealth consultations. So it's been a really sort of eye-opening experience, and I really truthfully agree with the Chinese characters and the Chinese saying of "Wei Ji," because um, there is another Chinese saying that we would say is like "Wei Ji Ying Bian," and those four characters add up to crisis, um, developmental change, I guess, would be a literal type of uh, translation for it. And so it just basically means, in crisis, we change to avert the crisis. So um, that to me was like one of my big aha moments these past few weeks, and I wanted to share that with you guys because I don't know if we're all kind of in on the same type of situation, but I'm sure people who are in this type of situation and who are facing crises and may feel really lost right now. And so I just wanted to, kind of bring light to the fact that there is, some hope. So the second thing I kind of wanted to kind of segue into is this there's this new habit that I've been incorporating these past I would say 5 weeks or so. And it's kind of like a modified version of what I used to do, but I really, really like the new way of getting the information. And um, it is basically honing in on what are some of the key priorities in your life and how do we bring more clarity into that which is important to you. And what I would call it is, what would you have me know? And you'll see why I kind of use the question as, sort of like the method, if you want to call it that. So I have never really been a morning person. So for me, this exercise actually works really well at night when the kids have gone to bed. My husband Calvin is doing his own thing, and I'm getting a little bit of me time. So what I like to usually do is sit on my couch, and our couch is literally like right in front of our fireplace. And I really love gas fireplaces because not only are they really warm, something about the way the fire burns just kind of helps us, get into a zone. And so what I would do is literally I would go through a few different areas of my life and I would use the question of what would you have me know to ask myself, you know, if there's something about each of those aspects that I need to either take action, make a change, or really understand, where I'm at with whichever aspect it is that I'm going through. So I'll just kind of go through the different areas with you, and I'll probably share with you some examples of some of the sort of insights that I've had, in the very recent few weeks. So the first section that I usually go to is relationships, and I think it is so critical at this period in time because we've been self-isolating for just over a month now, and it really is starting to show in some of the people around me that, the relationship side of things have become a little bit tense. And I think it's just because, we're not used to being sort of in each other's faces, if you want to call it that, 24/7. And that can really bring out certain things. Like it could kind of make you a little bit more irritable. And if you're facing some financial stresses or um, daily stressors such as having to teach your kids, like added load into your work. So people who are working from home, now they have children in the background. If they're on their Zoom calls and children like kind of like run in and they have to tend to them, or they have to get their spouse to go, hey, can you watch the kids while I'm on my call, and then vice versa, right? So I think there are lots of little triggers, if you want to call it that, that can actually lead us into having some relationship friction. So this is what I would do. I would sit in front of, the fireplace and on my couch comfortably. I would close my eyes and I would think of the category, which is relationship. Now, in terms of just this one category, we have three different areas that we want to look at. And the first one that I usually start with is relationship to you. So, you, yourself, this is your relationship to yourself. And when you have your eyes closed, you want to ask yourself, what would you have me know? And if nothing comes to mind at first, give it a little bit of time. Take a couple of breaths and just sit with that question, with that thought in your mind of what would you have me know? And, for me, I would say during the very first week of this self isolation period, I remember when I asked myself that question, the answer that came to me was, you need to set a routine. It was kind of an kind of like aha, because I was thinking to myself, well, I'm taking this time to like kind of recuperate from, all the endless hours that I'd worked. And so I was kind of just enjoying myself, and spending lots of time with the kids, spending lots of time with Kelvin. Like I was really actually embracing this whole like stay at home, do your part, social distancing is important. And so it was interesting that, my inner voice said, you need to set a routine. And I thought, hmm, okay. So what I did was I would write it down. And, you don't have to take action right away, but it's just something that you take note of. And when the time is right, you may do something about it. And sometimes you'll take action right away, and sometimes maybe you'll take action later on. But it was really interesting to note that at the end of that first week, I started feeling the reason why that answer came to me, because I felt a little lost. Like the first week was fine and dandy and it was great, but then by the second week, just waking up every day and living in my PJs was really not such a cool thing anymore. So I started feeling a little bit of like my slacker self take over, and I didn't really like that because I really like being productive and I want to make sure that I do things, that I'm actually being a contributor to society. Like I've never really just, I don't love just sitting around doing nothing and not being, a force, a positive force. So interestingly enough, once we started to set a routine, and it wasn't just myself, but it actually a routine for me, but also a routine for my kids and